I'm John Strum, and this is RealTalk MS. It's August 2nd, and we have a lot to talk about. Dating can be tricky for anyone, and it doesn't get any easier if you happen to be living with MS. In addition to all of the other dating considerations, you also have to think about things like if, how, and when to disclose your MS. And you want to make sure your dating activities are physically doable. So that might mean no long walks on the beach when the temperature is soaring. It might mean no challenging hikes up a steep mountain trail. And it might even mean having to postpone the date because your symptoms are acting up and you're experiencing a bad day. But like so many other things in life, with a little planning and adaptation, a person living with MS can enjoy a fulfilling dating life. A lot of you have requested an episode about dating and MS, so I'm devoting this entire episode of the podcast to my conversation with Alaya McKinney and Akeem McMichael. Alaya and Akeem are both millennials living with MS who are out there dating, and just to be clear, Alaya and Akeem are not dating each other, but they're both here to share their perspectives on dating with MS. All of us are familiar with the challenges and complexities involved in building and maintaining intimate relationships. It's not unusual to experience the self-doubt and personal insecurities that can sometimes make meeting new people difficult. And that's especially true when you're living with multiple sclerosis. You want to be with someone who's going to love and support you no matter what MS might bring. But how do you get there? How do you reach that point with someone? Alaya McKinney and Akeem McMichael are joining us today to discuss dating and MS. Alaya, Akeem, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Alaya, how old were you when you were first diagnosed, and what were the first symptoms that led to that diagnosis?
Hello, everyone. My name is Alaya McKinney, and I was diagnosed in April of 2010. I was 18 years old. I woke up with blindness in my left eye and paralysis on my right side and numbness and tingling in both my hands and my feet. From then, my mom called our primary care physician. He brought me into his office. I went to a neurologist as well as a neuro-ophthalmologist and had an MRI and spinal tap, and I was diagnosed. My experience happened very rapidly. Thankfully, I was diagnosed very quickly within 2 days of my symptoms. And from then, I've been living with MS for almost 13 years.
Same question, Akeem. How old were you when you were first diagnosed, and what were those first symptoms like for you?
I was diagnosed in February 2015, but my symptoms started in 2014 because it was end of the year coming into the new year. Frequent restroom breaks were my actual first symptoms, but I just didn't know they were MS symptoms. But what actually set it off for me to get my diagnosis was optic neuritis. I had blindness in my right eye. Well, not total blindness, but just very blurred vision in my right eye. And I just thought my contacts or my glasses were acting up. So I was just like, let me go to the eye doctor. They took me to the eye doctor. They was like, oh, you need to go to the ER. Went to the ER, did the spinal tap, did the MRI. And actually a month later, I was actually diagnosed. So between that time, it was kind of like the only scariest times I had with my MS because I just didn't know what it was. I had to wait. But at 25 years old, I was kind of like, okay, it's either going to be something with my retina or it's something totally I don't know anything about.
So you were diagnosed at the age of 25, Akeem. When it came to your thoughts and feelings about dating, once you got that diagnosis, did anything change?
Not immediately, because I didn't have a lot of the things that come with the territories of MS until later, and they become more exposed until later. Because at first, like I said, in February, after the optic neuritis, I was kind of like, okay, I can see again. And, just had a little dizziness, a little bit, that was about it. So I was like, besides not being able to go around in circles, I was like, oh, I'm getting older. So that comes with age. Old people always say, well, you get older, you can't do the things that you used to do. So I'm like, oh, well, I just can't spin around like I used to anymore. So I just left it alone. But then as years went on or months went on, it's kind of like, oh, it's hot. I can't go outside like I used to. So it changed on, oh, I can't go to the beach like I want to, even though I stay by the beach. I'm 40 minutes away from the beach. So I'm kind of like, oh, I always want to go over there. Let's go. It's kind of like, you can't go in the middle of the day. So it changed up over the time. So even today, like the Akeem I am today, totally different than the way I was, 7 years ago when I was diagnosed. So it's kind of like, okay, back then I would just go. Like, I don't care about the MS versus now it's kind of like, oh, you might want to consider this, and this. Because you can have, like, I used to bring a change of clothes. Now I bring a change of clothes because you never know what my bladder may do. And even though I know I can still go to the restroom, it's kind of like, well, you might not walk as fast as you used to. So you have to weigh those options.
Alaya, what about you? You were 18 when you were diagnosed. What were your concerns about dating after being diagnosed at such a young age?
Well, my concerns, my whole life changed. So my initial, the first 2 to 3 years of my MS diagnosis were very challenging. Those were the most challenging years of me being diagnosed. I was on a cane and a walker. So I went from being a functional 18-year-old who was in college, being liberated and now become an adult, to now I'm on a cane and a walker. And I've gone to this sense of infancy, and to say, like, for lack of better words, because now I'm dependent on my mother and my family, and I need assistance doing various everyday tasks. So initially, dating wasn't in my major thought, but it became, well, nobody's going to want to date me like this. Nobody's going to want me like this. What are my friends going to think? What are other people going to think? So I found myself becoming more depressed and more secluded and wanting to stay home. But as my MS has progressed and I've become more comfortable with my disease, I've seen the questions that I ask or what I'm looking for in a partner has shifted. So I'm looking for different qualities in a partner than before. You may base things based all on physical. I'm looking for a partner who understands my disease, how they are, their personality, and how they treat me having a disease. So things shifted in that direction, and having to share another component about yourself, that I have this disease and now I'm going through this learning curve with an individual about my disease. So I've seen those changes.
Disclosing MS is an important consideration for anyone. And when it comes to disclosure, there are no hard and fast rules that apply to every person and every relationship. I've heard people say that a first date is an opportunity to decide if you really want to get to know someone better, and perhaps that's not the right time to share a lot of intimate details about your life. But once you've made the decision that someone is relationship material, well, then it's probably time to start sharing more personal information. Some people might assume that disclosure will become easier if they wait and delay talking about it until their relationship feels closer. But building that extra cushion of time is a double-edged sword. Secrecy can be a very shaky foundation on which to try to build a successful relationship. Alaya, what's been your experience sharing your diagnosis with others? When does it feel right for you to share, and how much do you disclose?
At the stage that I'm at today, I disclose very early. And I disclose very early because, for one, I don't want to invest my time and my emotions into someone who I'm not sure that they will take heed to what I have. And what you find, as you shared, John, it's a double-edged sword, is when you're constantly dating someone and then I'll give it just 5 dates into the relationship, 3 dates into the relationship, I have this interest, I have this like of this person, but I don't know if when I share this individual will reject me. So I'd rather get that out in the forefront, in the beginning. I don't just come out and say, hi, I'm Alaya McKinney and I have sclerosis. But as the conversation progresses, I do share with you that I have multiple sclerosis, and I share what my symptoms are. And if you're interested, I share my story. And so based on how that individual reacts also shows me if I want to continue communicating with this person? Do I want to go on this first date? And being a female, I feel like it's very important for me to disclose, especially before our first date, because most of the time you find that men plan a date. And so I need you to know what I can and cannot do. So if you're planning a long walk on the beach or a hike up Running Canyon, I cannot do that. So I need you to know what my limitations are and what I can and cannot do. So disclosing very upfront for the sake of my emotions, for the sake of not hiding something from him, and for the sake of seeing where our relationship will go. It's very, very important for me to disclose early.
Akeem, what works or doesn't work for you when it comes to disclosure?
What doesn't work for me is waiting. It's one of those things where I can't wait to let you know about this. I mean, again, I'm not going to, like Alaya said, I'm not going to introduce myself like, hey, I'm Akeem and I'm Mr. MS. Haha. But it is one of those things where it's like, hey, how are you? I'm Akeem. You know, this is what's going on. And during those talking stages, that's when I let it be known up front. And like she said, most guys plan the date. So I have that leeway of like, yes, because sometimes like, what do I want to do and how do I want to do it? So some people, I was like, let's not go to, I plan the restaurant because I know certain foods I can deal with and tolerate. Or I plan a certain activity that I would like to do, even though she would hopefully like it as well. But I know it's something that I can handle versus going to those extreme measures because she may go do something that I don't particularly know that if I can handle or not. But that way we can talk about it and say, well, these are the things I can do right now. This is what I feel comfortable with doing, hopefully on that day. And then I let them know too, hopefully on that day, I'm still able to do it. Because if I don't intend to stand anyone up, but if I just say, well, in case something happens, just be on standby, knowing that it's not you in particular or anything like that. It's more of this is what's going on. This is what I have to take care of to make sure that and you know, as a guy, you always gonna make it sound smooth. It's like, well, I'm just trying to make it better. So when I take you out, that everything is in order. So, you know, you make it sound real smooth and sweet. The sweet talk of them to say, well, this is what's going on. But I'm very upfront with it as well. It's kind of like, I'm not going to wait to let you know because, again, we can go out, something can happen. You don't know what's going on. I don't need that to happen.
So, Akeem, let me ask you, after you have disclosed your MS, what are some of the questions that you typically get asked?
The questions I normally typically asked, like, well, why do you look so good? You don't look sick. What do you mean? What do you mean you have MS? You have a disease? Or they want to know if it's anything sexual, like, well, can I get it? Can you pass it to me? It's like, no, you don't have to wear a mask around me. Not for MS anyway. So it's okay to do that. Or I get asked, so what things can't you do? And I some questions I can't answer right then. That's like, I don't know what I can't do until I try it. But there's certain things I know I can't do, like I can't be in the heat index of 115. I know I can't be out there in that. But for a second, I want to get the mail and walk back in. That's about it. I'm not going to do an all-day activity in 100-degree heat index. So those are the questions I get asked. Some of them become sexual questions. I'm like, I just don't want to answer that right now because we probably won't have sex anyway.
I'm going to circle back to that in a minute, I promise you. But Alaya, let me ask you, because I think you've already started to answer this question. Once you've disclosed your MS, does that other person's reaction have an impact on how you feel about moving forward in the relationship? Or do you find that that's something that sort of evolves over time?
Most definitely it impacts. Although it evolves over time, your initial reaction to something kind of lets me know where you stand and how you view something. So if your initial reaction is to be inquisitive and ask questions and you want to know, I'm like, wow, he has an interest of what I have. But if it's like, okay, yeah, whatever, and moving on, it kind of is like, okay, well, is this person, if I'm looking for a relationship, is this person going to be here or have interest when I'm not as functional as I am today, or I don't feel as well as I do today, or I don't look the way I do today? So I like an individual to take interest in what I have, and his reaction is very, very important to me because it's not all about whether he's interested in me, but dating is also about if I'm interested in him. And it's an automatic turnoff when you show no interest in what I have, what's going on with my body. So if you are asking, like I said, asking questions, even basic things after I've shared with you that I have it, and you're like, how are you feeling today? Or even on the date, are you feeling okay? Or is it okay if we do this? I say, oh, wow, he really cares. But if it's just all about him, it's a no for me. There will be no second date. There will be no first date.
So it sounds like you're not only hoping someone is going to take in that information that you're sharing with them, you're really looking for them to become at least somewhat actively engaged in what you have to say.
Most definitely. MS and I come as a package deal. And I always use the example of it's like someone who has a child. And so for me to not disclose to you that I have a child and we're going on dates, and then we've been on a multitude of dates, we're developing feelings, and then I throw on you, oh yeah, I have a daughter or I have a son. I don't feel like that's fair to him nor me in my feelings, because he has every right to say, you know what, I don't date women with children. But at the same time, if I share with you, I do have a daughter or a son, and they're constantly showing interest in that daughter or son, that becomes a turn on. It's an attraction for me. So the same goes with MS. MS and I are a package deal. And so with that, if you have interest in my MS, if you want to learn more about it, I'm not saying that our relationship becomes all about MS and that's all we talk about. But if you take interest in this component of my life, it makes me become more interested. It makes me feel like, wow, he cares. And also too, like I said, having MS can start to affect your life. And so I want you to see that, hey, I'm not always going to be like this. I have days where I don't look like this. I don't feel like this. So I want you to, hey, do some research. You're lazy or you're so structured and planned. I want you to take interest in, hey, going on the MS website and saying they may sleep more and still be tired. I can sleep all day, but I'm still tired. I'm a very, very planned individual. And I also am known as the friend who cancels all the time. But I cancel all the time because I don't feel well. So all of these things are very important for him to take heed to and him to research. And I'll help him with that research process. I will tell you which websites and which podcasts to listen to. First, starting off with RealTalk MS.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to suggest it as well. Sex and intimacy can be complicated issues all by themselves, and MS doesn't necessarily make them any easier. Symptoms like fatigue or numbness, and even some medications you might be taking for symptom management can affect your mood or sexual response. Alaya, what have you found to be good ways to approach conversations about sex and intimacy?
Well, I always have this mindset that when it comes to intimacy and sex, you have to communicate. Communicate, period, whether what you like, what you're into, what satisfies you. And so having MS just adds a component to that. So when you're with a partner and you're talking about or sharing the things that you're into or desire, you throw in there and you let them know, you know what, having MS, I have numbness and tingling in my legs and feet, so I can't do X, Y, and Z. I have fatigue, so I may not be as active as other partners that you have. And so you share that before we're in the bed and you're expecting, me to do all the flips and the tricks. I can't perform that way. So I feel like communication it is very important. It's like I said, just like he may be into something and I can say, hey, I'm not into that. And I can share I have MS and he can say, I'm looking for somebody who's a little bit more adventurous sexually. Then we can go from there and I can say, you know what, this is not going to be a match. He can say it's not going to be a match. But if I don't communicate that, I feel like the letdown comes on the day that it's time to perform, and I don't meet my show doesn't meet that person's expectation.
Akeem, you have anything you'd like to add? How do you handle the conversation about the flips and the tricks?
Exactly. I was like, well, the flips and the tricks, I was like, well, if you want to do flips and tricks, I'm just going to be like, okay. But no, I believe that intimacy is a major part of any relationship, whether it's sex in it or not. So I always try to make sure that I'm I'm not going to say my main goal is intimacy. Main goal is not sex either. But I always try to make sure that there's a level of intimacy regardless before we do anything. Because one, I'm going to be very sheltered of myself because there are things that I can't do the flips or the tricks either. So there's some things I can't do that they may want to happen. I was like, well, I just can't do that for you. I'm sorry, but I can make sure that you are mentally and emotionally loved more than physically loved. Or I can still satisfy you physically. Just let me know what it takes to satisfy you physically. And if it takes the bends and the turns and the crooks and the nannies and the crannies and all the other fancy stuff that people want to get tucked in and do, I'm like, well, you have to catch me on another day and time because it's not going to be right then and there all the time. And certain medications do affect other things, or I may have to do other things. I mean, because let's just go ahead and put it out there. ED is something that affects men with MS a lot of times. So you just never know when it's going to happen. So you can think, oh, well, you're a millennial, so you're in this age group, you might not have these things. I'm just like, well, sorry to tell you, it happened. And I didn't feel any good about it myself. So let's work through this. Because again, there's a level of intimacy that if we ever grow together anyway, that sex will fade out regardless. So I always just approach it to, well, let's just be close. If it happens, it happens. I'm gonna have to do these things. It's not you personally. Don't think I'm not, feeling you or intrigued by you and don't like the flips or the turns and everything. But it's just, you have certain body functions that just won't work all the time right then and there.
It sounds like when you're living with MS and you're thinking about dating, you're thinking about all the questions and considerations anyone thinks about when it comes to dating, and then a little bit extra, a little bit more planning, a little more forethought. So I want to ask each of you, what are the most important qualities you look for in a partner? Akeem, let's start with you.
Honesty is the main thing. I like people being honest with me because I'm going to be honest with you. It may hurt my feelings, but I have a motto says no feelings, no filter anyway. So it's kind of like it's a billion people in the world. So I'm not going to be trivial over this. And yes, I may have a serious like for you or whatever, but as long as you're honest with me, we're still going to remain good people. So you have to be honest, have to be funny. We have to laugh a little bit. I mean, it's that's how I get through my MS regardless. That's how I get through life regardless. I'm going to laugh. So you have to make sure you have laughter there. You don't necessarily have to be funny, but you have to laugh. I mean, I make corny jokes all the time. So, I mean, it's like, I'm going to laugh at myself. Even if you don't, I'm going to laugh. So let's just have a little laughter together. So I'm looking for honesty, laughter, and most of all, making sure that you're positive. I mean, we can have those arguments. We'll have those things where we just might not get along. But as long as we have a positive outcome and say, well, where do we want to go? How do we want to make sure we live together? How do we want to have that intimacy? That's why I want to make sure we have positive laughter and honesty.
Alaya, what are the most important qualities you look for in a partner?
I agree with Akeem, and I want to add to that. Communication. Communication is very important to me, especially in the beginning of the relationship. But as the relationship continues, I feel like being able to communicate with my partner what I'm feeling, what I'm looking for, what I'm going through is very important, especially in the beginning of the relationship. If you don't make me feel that we can communicate, then that's an issue with me. And I can share how I feel all the time. I can share what I'm going through, but I also want you to share your emotions. How does dating someone with MS make you feel? What do you think about it? Is this an issue for you? And then also I'd have to say compassion. Having compassion, and the third thing is understanding. And I think compassion and understanding go hand in hand together. For you to be understanding of what I have, being understanding of my life, being understanding of what this may mean for our relationship and what we may have to go through, and approaching it with a compassionate heart. Approaching it with compassion of not sympathy. I don't need you to feel bad for me, but also being compassionate and taking interest and understanding and communicating with me. That's the biggest turn on for me. I'm attracted to someone mentally before I'm attracted to you physically. And I think that shifted for me from before being diagnosed with MS. I was all about the physical. Oh, is he tall? Is he, oh, girl, what does his body look like? But now I'm at a stage where what does he do for me mentally? What does he do for me? How does he make me feel? And then that attraction for that individual.
You know, we're always evaluating this other person as a potential partner. Is part of that evaluation for either of you, are you thinking about them as someone who may be a potential care partner one day?
I can say most definitely. And because I'm 30 now, so I'm looking for dating with a purpose and eventually getting married. So for me, throughout your relationship, things can change. I've seen my first initial entrance to having MS, it was the drastic. I was on a cane, I was on a walker, and now you see me today and I wear heels, I'm functional, and the first thing people say is you don't look sick. So I'm looking for someone who, if this happens, it could shift in a month of us dating. What is your reaction to that going to be? And I understand that I'm not expecting you to immediately jump into being like, oh, okay, this is okay, I can take care of you, da, da, da. But also to have that compassion and seek that understanding to, okay, I can care for this person. This person isn't who I initially started to date, but I still have love or interest for this person. So most definitely, especially if you're desiring to get married, you're looking for a care partner. Same way you and your wife were. Your wife at one point was one way, and then she shifted to another way. And so it put you into a position that you didn't initially think you were going to get into, but you became her care partner. And with that, I'm looking for someone that is the same. Now, if you would ask me in my 20s, I would have said no. But now in my 30s, now that I'm looking to be married, most definitely.
How about you, Akeem?
I would hope that she would be a care partner. Yes, that's what we want out of any person that is going to become our spouse. But I just never thought about it being that way. It's always like the term I always hear too called helpmate. I want to be this person helpmate. It's not like I'm a wordplay kind of person. So I don't deal with words, real. It's like, I don't want you. I mean, I still feel weird when people are like, well, who's your care partner? I was like, I just don't like that term. It's not that it's a bad term. It's just not for me. But I mean, I have taken ladies on MS dinners. So, I mean, that's potentially so you can learn more about it and you be my partner. But I just never thought about it that way. And she just asked, I was like, oh, good question. So, I mean, I guess I do. It's just I never thought about it being that way.
Good answer.
It's a great question because at the end of the day, you never know when you're dating or just in life in general, having any disease, there's a shift that happens. So you have to look at, I know for me as a woman, I look for someone, I'm not saying that I'm having a kid tomorrow, but I look at components and I'm like, could he be a good dad? Right. You know what I mean? And so, and I'm sure a man says, could she be a good mom? And so for me, your partner is your helpmate. And so I'm looking for someone that says, if this happens, if I have a relapse, could this person be of assistance? Or do you have an individual who's completely selfish, self-absorbed? It's all about them. I have to look at that situation and say, no, that person couldn't have the compassion or interest in me if I'm not the way I am today. So I feel like it's something that's very important for people to look for, especially our millennial generation. We're very physical. We get into like, oh, what does she look like? What does he look like? And so I feel like now that you have something, I'm not saying that you're looking for someone, to be your whole, that's the only thing you're looking for, but these are qualities you need to look for just as much as you look for qualities of, is he going to be a good father? Is she going to be a good mother?
Alaya McKinney and Akeem McMichael, thank you for your willingness to be transparent, share your thoughts on what can sometimes be a tricky topic. Thanks for talking with me today.
Thank you for having me.
That's going to wrap up this episode of Real Talk MS. Real Talk MS is powered by the National MS Society. And you can share this episode of the podcast by letting your friends or family members know that all they have to do is point their web browser at realtalkms.com/257. You'll find that link in today's show notes, so you can easily copy and paste it right into an email or text. And if you have a minute, I hope you'll visit the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store and download the free RealTalk MS app for your iOS or Android smartphone or tablet. It's the best way for us to stay connected. The app will automatically download the latest episode of RealTalk MS. You'll be able to access any of our past episodes. You'll be able to save your favorite episodes. And it's a great way for me to share bonus content with you. The app is free, so I hope you'll download it today. I'm John Strum. Thanks for listening. Stay safe and make healthy choices.